We've barely survived going through Haddonfield when, well, now we're taking a trip to Crystal Lake because today we're looking at the first two Friday the 13th films. One of them, which is often used for really lame horror trivia, but we'll get to that in a minute. And I'll see you here with my dad and with Malcolm talking about Friday the 13th, the original classic, and its follow up. Hey there, guys. so glad to
Hello.
be back. We're going from my we're going into my favorite franchise. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Out of all the franchises that are out there, like horror franchises, this is the one that I kind of lean towards the most. It's my comfort food. Um, we're going to start with the original film, and of course, for those that are unaware, Friday the 13th is, well, it's Friday the 13th. It was done in 1980 by Sean Cunningham. The big thing about this one is there was no script originally. Basically, he had an idea. He had this poster. He had this poster, and he had the title Friday 13th, which was great. And he sold it on that. He actually put an ad out in the trades. Scariest movie, Friday the 13th. There was no script. So he would get in contact with the guy that wrote another script for him, Victor Miller, and who worked on a soccer film, by the way, which was what he thought was going to be his big thing. Because Sean S. Cunningham thought that his big thing was going to be kids' movies, not this. That's what he thought his legacy was going to be. Victor S. Miller didn't know exactly what to do. What he decided to do was reverse engineer Psycho. If you've watched this movie before, and I'm sure anybody that's on here has, this is Psycho in reverse. It is not Norman Bates, pretending to be his mom and killing people. It is the opposite. It is a mom getting
Pretend
vengeance.
to be our son.
Yeah, to the point where she actually says it. And one of the big common misconceptions is that it's like, and it's actually mom, like kill and mom. So basically, it's the first
Oh.
syllable of kill, and the second and the first syllable of mom, like because she's when she's there, she's like, kill her, mommy, kill her, mommy. She's talking
Oh.
in his voice. So what he did with Harry Manfredini was put those two together and made the kill, mom. But people keep like mishearing it, myself included, by the way, for years.
Yeah.
There's a whole good cast on this one. We'll get into that. I'm gonna let Malcolm go first on this one. I guess your eyes are freshest on this film here. This is something I watch at least 5 or 6 times a year. The entire franchise, not just one movie, guys. Just so you
Yeah.
know. Year, yeah. I'm not lying when I say this is my favorite franchise. My dad knows this. That I'm a massive fanatic with these. When it comes
I've
to
got
these.
too many films to watch same franchise 6 times a year.
Not me.
But
Because they're nice and short too. Like they're not it's sweet because
no,
you can
they
watch a new
are.
movie and then you can watch like a Friday 13th film. Because sometimes I'll be
But
watching something heavy and I'll be like, oh
yeah.
God, this cleanses the palate.
To be fair though, I do watch Problem on My Blow Valentine every year, so it's the same thing really. It's just they're just one movie, aren't they? So this film came out in 1978, right?
No, this one came out in 1980, so just 2 years
No, no
after.
one. Oh, I got mixed up Halloween. That's right. Yeah. So it came out just after Halloween, basically, and it starts off with a bang, really. When you think about it, you see what happens with the camp counselors and that, and you see what happens, and then basically it does this whole next time thing, and we see them all going to the camp again. Right, and along the way we meet all the Muppets, as I like to call them, all the Muppets going. Some are hypersexual, some aren't, as they always were back then. And then we get that really weird car scene where she gets in the car and she's like, "Hi, yeah, blah, 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 blah." "Oh, no." Right? And, the woman gets killed, basically. And you're just like, hold on a minute. We're supposed to believe this is from a woman, because I forget, but Pamela Voorhees turns into the Incredible Hulk when she kills people.
Well, to be fair, she just slits the throat. Doesn't actually do anything too intense with
So, but you have to get some pressure to slit someone's throat properly. Do you know what I mean? You have to really get some pressure on it, unless you're really fast.
You kind of make me nervous there, Malcolm. Just say.
But it's not as easy as you think. So that happens. We meet the crazy guy. I'm going to call him. What's his name?
Crazy Ralph.
Crazy Ralph. That's it.
Actually, the hat's
they call him
kind
that,
of
don't they? Yeah. Well, you'd know him because. You'd know him because he'd make a perfect companion to the White family. So he keeps going off and on and going on about it. Nobody wants to believe him. Oh, it's Crazy Ralph. He's crazy. Is this, is that, And nobody believes him. As usual, the usual stuff happens. People start getting killed. People start disappearing. Nobody seems to realise these people have disappeared. Right, because nobody ever pays attention in these movies for the first, let's say, hour. And all of a sudden they go, "What's happened? Where is everybody?" It starts raining. There's one guy who's messing around by the targets and he gets killed. And there's car breakages. There's, "Oh, look, we can't go because the car doesn't work. Oh, look, what's going on?" Right? And then we get the famous scene where we say who the killer really is. And it's Kermit the Frog. No, it's not. It's Pamela Voorhees, who actually looks like she could have had a relationship with Kermit the Frog for all those years without crazy she looks in the face. But what I will be honest about here is I like Pamela Voorhees a lot more than Jason Voorhees because I actually think she's very believable as a psychotic woman. The way she's like, yeah, and she's thinking about, So I like the whole Pamela Voorhees as the killer. I was kind of sad that she got her head chopped off because, it's a great scene, and I love what I do like about the ending area is because I don't want to talk too much about it because obviously I don't want to ruin you guys being able to say some new stuff in there as well. But I didn't say, right? Some obvious stuff as well, like the Kevin Bacon kill and stuff like that. But I will say this. I like how that bit went on for quite a while at the end. Like, it felt very scary. It felt very tense. It felt like she was being held hostage. It felt like she was like, you're the final one. I'm going to tell you and talk to you about everything. And then I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you, And I like that. I thought that was thingy. And I got to be honest, I think Pamela Voorhees is the better killer because she didn't come out of the water, right? Like at the end of the, let me turn this thing off because the thing's going to just keep going, otherwise silent mode. And she keeps going, and you sit there and you're like, okay, now what I will say about this film is I love how it's outside, it's set in the middle of nowhere, Camp Crystal Lake is out there away from the town and quite a bit. And I like how you've got that tense kind of scary, like you can't just leave. If you watch something like Halloween, you're like, sure, you could just go and get help. They could just run out the door and somebody would talk to them. But at Camp Crystal Lake, unless there's people in that area, you could get killed anytime. You can't just find your way out there. If you ain't got a car working and you're walking in the woods, anybody could be there behind you. So it's a lot more thrilling in that sense. What I think the deaths are pretty good, right? Even though, let's be honest, when you watch that Kevin Bacon kill, that is not a woman's hand. So, it's like, are we trying to believe that Pamela Voorhees had maybe a sidekick along the way? It wasn't Jason, or did she put on like male hand gloves to distract the audience while they were watching in the cinema?
Well, it happens later.
Well, yeah, exactly, right? So You know, and the faults she has. I mean, this woman should have been a Marvel superhero, right? So yeah, I think it's a decent film. It's obviously the best one to me out of the first two, you know. So I'd give it a 5 because I like the Pamela Voorhees story, and I think after it gets to Jason, after a few, it gets sometimes a bit silly. Not bad, but a bit silly. Like, you know, Pill would not keep going back to Camp Crystal Lake. You know what I mean? But what I will say is this: when you watch Friday the 13th and you watch The Curse of Michael Myers, you notice something. The mother who's in the house looks like the most nerdiest version of Pamela Voorhees.
Oh, Kim
So,
Darby's yeah.
looks like a real nerdy version of Pamela Voorhees. Now, I like the rain setting. The rain really adds to the tension. I love rain in horror when it's done correctly. I think that's great. I love the setting. I think this is probably this is got to be one of, if not the best, kind of camp outside. You know what I mean? Horror movies. Like when you put against things like The Prey, you put against things like The Burning. You know what I mean? You know, the Friday the 13th is basically what started that on a big trend more.
Oh, 100%. Good scoring, actually. So, Dad, what are your thoughts on this?
I sat in theater as usual. I see most of them in theater. Yeah, I go along with Malcolm in some ways. He's talking about Pamela. I agree she's the best part of it. But there you go. She's a famous actress. You guys would know because she was before your time. But Betsy Palmer made a lot of big movies. And one thing about her that you might have recognized, though, Malcolm, she may not have had the strength, but you look at him at the end of it, she's a lot bigger woman than the heroine.
And she's a total MILF.
You know, she's bigger in stature, right?
Yes, actually.
Yeah, that's right. There you go.
Yeah.
Although she was a sex symbol years ago, but she was pretty, you know. So some of the stuff she could have done. Yeah. But I like the movie. I like the setting, like you say. I like most of the kills. They weren't, you know, bloody or anything, but they were good. The actors were pretty good in it. I thought the cast was decent, you know. And it had some good scares. It was great because unless you saw the uncensored version, and I don't care what anybody says, nobody knew who the killer. If they saw it in the theater, which it wasn't, it was a cut version. There's scenes missing at the beginning. But if you went in the theater, there's no way possible you would have known until she showed up. I know the actress, so when she showed up in the movie, she's a big star, so I figured, what's she going to do, a cameo? But as soon as her face popped on the screen, I knew she was the one.
Well, it was near the end,
most people going in, young people who don't know her or don't know anything, they wouldn't know until the end. So that was good. And the scare that, like what I call Carrie scares now. I don't know if Carrie was before or after that.
It was actually because of Carrie that happened.
That was a scare. It's still scary. Even today, if you watch it, when he jumps out of that water, you still get that jump. No matter how many times you see it, it's still there, right?
I think it's the slow motion of it, you know, and the fact that he's pulling her in.
Naturally, I think it's probably.
I tense up every time that.
I like that part to the beginning. I like that really well. So I thought that was great. Go back and forth to that.
It is. I mean, actually, the second part where you see the guy's hands,
I enjoyed it. I really did.
I mean, obviously, you guys know I'm going to have a lot of great stuff.
All these horror movies got. It's a low budget, so you know it's going to be a few little flaws, and it's natural. But overall, I give it a 5.
To be fair, for a low budget movie, it's probably one of the best looking, especially now on 4K and that.
Yeah,
I mean,
I agree.
You know, it's phenomenal to watch because I've got the 4K of the first one.
I haven't picked up the 4K yet. Is it worth it?
Yeah, it's worth it. Depend on your TV, obviously, and your player, because sometimes that makes a difference. But yeah, it is worth it. I just wish they'd have done it as a set instead of, you know.
That's paramount, man.
Yeah.
For me, I had the pleasure of seeing this movie just over a year ago. No, but 2 years ago now, at the drive-in again. with my cousin Roger. They showed Friday 13th original, and then they showed the remake of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Very different reactions we had for both those films. But here's the thing. At the drive-in, man, did this work. Man, did it.
Because you're in an open field.
It's the thing is like, I was worried because it's a movie from 1980. You know, I saw most of the Friday 13th films in theater. I remember actually seeing this on CED back in the day too. Those, you know, those big plastic discs.
Yeah.
But Friday 13th holds a special place in my heart. Now, there's no way to tell who the killer is because you don't see Pamela anytime until she comes up at the end of it. Initially, though, that wasn't always the case. In the original script, and which has never been confirmed, if he ever filmed anything of it or not, when she's chasing after them, there's a bigger scene. We actually get a promo scene of her, of the girl being kind of chased with this kind of it's almost like a kind of a plastic tarp type thing with the girl at the beginning where we see her open her mouth and it kind of goes like that.
Yeah.
But it was supposed to be a bigger chase sequence, and the killer gets his finger cut off in half. So we're supposed to initially what we're supposed to have done is like when the killer comes on the scene later on when we finally see her, we don't know until we see the finger. Obviously, that was taken out. So, you know, that's neither here nor there.
Which is a shame, really, because that would have probably been really good if you'd noticed it.
It would have been interesting. And that's the thing, like, because like we've seen like promos of it, but nobody knows that was ever actually filmed. Because, you know, like Oliver Reed with his mom writing a Curse of the Werewolf, obviously not a scene from the film. But for me, there's a lot to love. Like, this is Tom Savini's work. This is really good work by Tom Savini. Tom Savini just, you know, he started becoming like a special effects guy. He had come back from NAMM and he was making special effects realistic because he'd seen people like in various states of, unfortunately, you know. But so when he
he was creating the nightmares in his head for people on film.
Exactly. It's like literally like kind of working through your PTSD with that stuff because he was a photographer. Like, is what he was now.
Yeah.
So one of the really cool things, we get the girl at the beginning. And she is super cheery. She's almost too cheery. You know what I mean? She's like,
yeah.
But there's one neat sequence, and I got to point this out. So they're like, she meets Crazy Ralph before everybody else does. He's got his bike and all that type of thing. He's like, oh, no, go up. Camp Crystal Lake is doomed. You'll die if you go to Camp Crystal Lake. And they're all like, go on, Ralph. You know, don't go scaring her. She gets in the truck with this guy, right? Who's taking her so you can take her so far. First thing he does is freak her out about all the stuff's happening at the camp. Like, oh no, don't go scaring her. Oh yeah, you're going up there. Maybe you shouldn't go there. There's people poisoned and all this stuff. So he tells her all these horror stories, worse than all the stuff that Crazy Ralph told her. We get Bing Crosby's son in this, boy. Harry Crosby has a role in this one too. We got Kevin Bacon, we got Harry Crosby, Adrienne King. Kind of, you know, she was getting her start. There is actually now, I think her and her husband we have a Crystal Lake winery, which is absolutely fantastic.
Oh, wow.
Love to have some of that wine. And the guy that plays Jason, Ari Lehman, he's in a band like First Jason, which I'm sure you all know about. But he was actually in Sean S. Cunningham's previous movie, the soccer one that I alluded to at the beginning of this video. And initially, it wasn't supposed to be. So Sean S. Cunningham wanted his son for it to play Jason. And
did he do the house? Did Sean S. kind of produce the house movies?
Yeah, that's
I thought so.
He actually directed the first one. And of course, My Boyfriend's Back is another kind of popular kind of comedy horror that he did.
He was a big producer when he on those type of things as well.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. Like afterwards, because and for me, he's not the best director that we're going to get in this franchise. But he does good. But, you know, his wife said, no way in hell is my son getting under that makeup and being in that lake for all this period of time. Carrie was big. So that's where the jump scare came from. A lot of people, by the way, much like they try to claim, oh, yeah, I'm the one that thought of the hockey mask. There's back and forth on the ending. But the most prevalent thing is like it was the Tom Savini thing, which would make sense. Now, there's always the thing of like the jump. We get that jump scare, and at the end of the film, like she's like, "Oh, did you see the boy?" Like, man, there was no boy. So he's still out there. Well, obviously he's not because Jason's alive. And that's a movie.
And
He hasn't,
he's a full-grown adult a year later.
yeah, he
So,
hasn't drowned,
not
obviously.
my interpretation. That was my interpretation. This was the Pamela Boys was so obsessed about it, but basically the lead girl got Stockholm syndrome from it. Got into the boat, right? Jason was still looking for his mother in her mind, and he came up, basically climbed in a boat with her. What they should have done is said they'll get pregnant, right? And then they could have done Jason Lives again, or whatever it is, Jason Lives later on, and they could have had him get blown up at the beginning of that, and then the baby version shoot out of her.
That'd be horrible.
You know?
But no, there are some great sequences in the film. Obviously, like you mentioned, you alluded to the Kevin Bacon death. That was a total accident the way that happened.
That was one of his first films.
It was. I think he'd done maybe Diner at the time.
Yeah, he'd done some. He'd also done some adverts and stuff.
Yeah.
But that was one of his first big roles. That was one of his first roles before he became bigger, like before Flood.
Oh yeah,
before.
And he didn't talk about this one for the
Loose.
longest time. Like you would if anybody talked about it for, he would not be happy. And now he's pretty good with that. But one of the neat things is that when they're doing the scene, the arrow scene, so there's supposed to be a kind of a pump, and it's supposed to pump the blood up, like up in the throat. So it didn't work. So they were like, "What the fuck do we do?" So the guy, like Tom Savini's assistant, just gets there, puts his mouth under it, and blows. And because he does, you get a much gorier scene than you would have initially got.
So Tom Savini's assistant blows, eh?
Tom Savini's assistant,
That's interesting.
by the way, that's his assistant. Is the hands that you see when you see those guy hands when she gets her head chopped off. You see these hands, like these hairy hands with like a ring on them.
Oh no, we know.
That's his assistant. Actually, when they had that fight, when Adrian King and Betsy Palmer had the fight on the beach, they accidentally got into it a bit more than they planned. And so it did get physical. Like neither of them, like not on purpose, but one, there was a hit and it made the fight get a bit more physical than it was supposed to. But it worked great on screen. I thought this was well paced. I still don't know what the hell strip Monopoly is. I played many strip games, strip poker, all that. Never strip Monopoly, guys. That's.
I think strip Monopoly would be if you put a house down, other people have to get naked, or if you land on their area.
I tried. What kills me though, Malcolm, is because I want like the rule things because I want okay, but this is worth more. Is it all just regular clothes? Is it a house? Is it a hotel? But I love that aspect of it. Now, as for like the reasoning behind like them not finding out like that the people were getting killed around them, more like obviously they're horny teenagers, except for Adrian King, who it's kind of alluded to that she may or may had something to do with the Steve before, because when they're fixing it up and kind of he looks at her and says, "Is that the way I look?"
The one thing you have to learn about the lead women in most of these movies is they're completely frigid.
And a lot of but she's not. Like it's the thing because we assume something's happened because she's an artist and she draws a picture of Steve. She's like, "Is that how I look?" And she's like, "That's how you look last night." Actually, for the first few Friday 13 films, we're going to get the opposite of that. The frigidness does come in a lot of horror films, and I think that they assume it's in Friday the 13th, but it's not, and we'll find out more about that in part 2. Actually, for me, this is a solid film. It is definitely, yeah. I'm gonna go with 5. I was initially going to go with 4.5 because I expect you guys to go lower, actually, but I'll make it straight across the board. And
Can't go with the first one. The first one's incredible.
Let's
be honest as well. Pamela Voorhees, when she goes all psycho, you just want to have sex with her.
You kind of do. I'm not going to lie. And don't forget, guys, this is the movie that started the body count that would come about, and it would be the reason that we would get nudity and more blood in Halloween 2.
Ooh. Body count continues.
I'm not sure if you guys watched the trailer for these two. The trailers are utterly fantastic. 1, showing the dead bodies. 2, 3. I just love it. So we get in this one here. I'll let Dad go first this time. We get Jason. So basically, Seamus Cunningham did not want to direct this. Steve Miner came in to direct this. He would actually go on to direct part 3, which we'll talk about tomorrow. And we also get, like, for the first time, Jason. Tom Savini did not come back because he didn't think Jason should come back to life. Now, what did Tom Savini do, though? He went and he did The Burning, which was at the same time. And some people see it as either a better version of this or a bit of a knockoff of this.
I think it's more of a knockoff.
Shot at the same time. So, not, I wouldn't say totally.
The kills are good, though. The multi-kills on The Burning are good.
They are, except like the lead's a bit weaker. We'll say with that.
Yeah.
Because I don't think you're going to get much better lead than what we get here in this one right here. Because this kind of sets the standard. Because now we're into Amy Steele, and her character Jenny is pretty revolutionary when it comes to this, and she's definitely a step for me up from what we got in the.
I'm going to say one thing about this before Glenn talks about it, because I know Glenn's got a lot of faults since he's watched it more recently than me, but I want to know why Jason never left Camp Crystal Lake properly, but he leaves and goes to an apartment which is probably across the country to kill the first woman in the movie. It makes no sense whatsoever.
Actually, the reason behind that is after the trauma that had happened to Adrienne King's character in the first film, rather than go home, like the conversation she has with her mom at the beginning of the film, is where she says she's not ready. So basically, she's got a place close to Camp Crystal Lake.
So she's an idiot then, basically. Okay.
Yeah, pretty much. She's staying in the town, like trying to get over it, and she's using her art.
Yeah, I would leave the town and go somewhere where I was far away from it, so I didn't have to think about being right next to it. Because I always thought the apartment was somewhere completely different.
Yeah, no, I like it, and they don't really kind of, aside from like alluding to it at the beginning with the telephone call.
Yeah,
they don't out and out let us know. We know that. By the way, Jason at that point of the film, when we see him like walking up, that's actually not the actor. Neither one of the two actors that play Jason. That's actually a girl dressed up in the Jason like outfit. They hadn't cast him yet, so there's actually a female like walking to pretend to be Jason. When we see like because at the beginning we see like this little kid kind of going down the road and like jumping in the puddle type thing. So Dad, what are your thoughts on part 2?
Okay, let me get straight now. I'm still thinking about, I understand what Malcolm's saying about Jason. All of a sudden, he's out of the water, fully grown, in a town. Here's a guy that's been in the woods, growing up, living off the land or whatever we're supposed to figure that out. And he's able, after a number of years, to be able to know where she's to, know how to find her. What kind of sense do we have?
It's only like it's less than a year, like from part 1 and part 2, guys. Just to put it into time.
It can't be because he's an adult.
Well, yes, it was less than a year. He must have been eating good in the woods.
But that's the thing. What she saw was like an hallucination. There's no way that he could have been, like, 1, he was rotted, but 2, there's no way that he would have been a kid, because as mentioned in the previous film, he drowned there years ago. And since then, they've tried to open up, like he quote unquote drowned there years ago. They've tried to open it up like many times. And once like the water was contaminated and all this other stuff happened. So at the end of the first one, after everything's happened, we kind of assume that it's that it's Pamela. Now for her, like his growth is stunted from when he supposedly died. But if you look at the time frame of like when he drowned, went over. So basically you got to think, for my mind canon, is that for him, getting away from his mom is probably the best thing that he could do. So when he quote unquote drowns, he gets away from everybody, and he just goes over to the other side, makes his, makes his
too young.
That's a lot of
But
assumptions.
the age frame is
And
right.
that's a lot of
If you look
assumptions.
at the
And
time frame,
to be honest,
it wouldn't
that's
be
more
a-
information.
but no,
Most
like you wouldn't be.
people now going in watching this movie don't think about that. They go in and they see a bigger Jason. And you do because you're studying it. I mean, you really love the movie. But the average person going, they see Jason, he's bigger. But forget about all that. We can find dozens of flaws in it. But I actually liked the movie. I remember because my daughter watched it at a very young age, which she shouldn't have, but it didn't bother her. But she got a kick out, and I actually got a kick out of the Hood when he was. I liked it with the one eye in it.
Oh yeah.
Before the mask. Once he got the mask on, then he was just Jason. Everybody knew there was no mystery or nothing about him. Then he's Jason. He's deformed inside the mask. But this one I liked. I liked the lead. Yes, Amy Steele. I did like her. Wasn't that keen on her boyfriend that much. I didn't think he was a great actor, but some of the kills were good. It had a bit of nudity, which always helps. The swimming scene gives me a couple points on the. I'll give a couple points for the swimming scene.
Kristen Baker.
But and it's one of those, like you say, when everybody don't get killed. It's only if you think about it, it's a small kill count. Most of them are at the club, boozing it up. It's only the. But some of the nudity I didn't find so much because as an older man, they looked like they were youngsters. They didn't look as old as the teenagers in the first one. They looked like, some of them looked like preteens. But
I'll get into that actually.
But I liked the way it went. I liked, especially, it was creepy in the end where the head was in that old cabin, like, and that was a good creepy scene. That was good. I like that. I knew there's going to be a jump at the end of it. You expected it, but it still was a bit of a jump when he came through the window. First time I saw it, I thought it was pretty good. Overall, I liked it. I'd probably give it a 4.5. I thought it was good. Yeah, for the most part, I thought it was great. So go ahead, Malcolm.
Well, I've always liked the potato sack mask thing, on his head, and I've also always liked the more as I always might sound, the more simple, messed up looking Jason, because I always felt like it felt more human.
Yeah.
Like he's been in the woods. He had issues anyway when he was a kid, and it feels more natural, And seeing him with a potato sack on his head makes more sense than the hockey mask. Because once he puts that hockey mask on, his face is like a normal shape and everything, just with like the weird thing, you know what I mean? So I've always felt like, hold on a minute. Yeah, I've always felt like it was better when he was that way, The other thing I like is I do like the ending. I like the head. I like when she puts on the thing and goes, "Listen to Samantha." I love that. Listen to me, Jason. Listen to me. Oh, Jason. And then she's got the knife and she thinks she's going to get away with it. And she's like, "Listen, you're a good boy, Jason." And you're like, that head's going to open its eyes. It's going to open its eyes. It's going to jump up and bite her in the shoulder.
Macabre.
But no, that would have been amazing, wouldn't it? But yeah, I think the kills are good in it. Is this the one with the guy in the wheelchair when he goes down the stairs?
This is the one, yeah.
Yeah, I really, really like that scene. I think that's such a great moment where it goes boom, 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 I like the setting still. I like the characters. I don't like it as much as the first one when it comes to the overall thing, but I do like the Jason stuff. When you get to see him and him run around. Because when you're looking at Jason, he's not as methodical or as good as he is in the other films, Like when he's running after them, he makes mistakes. He's not smart. He's not intelligent. He feels more like an average person in this movie. When you watch him in other movies, he becomes like an indestructible object, like Michael Myers, right? And I think that hurts the character more when they do that. Because, it just... When I see somebody going around killing people, which is quite daily where I live, I like seeing them make mistakes and I like seeing people run off, But when you watch the later ones, they run off and, you know. So I really like this one. I think it's one of the better ones. Because the problem with the Friday the 13th franchise, if you ask me, is as great as it's in Camp Crystal Lake, at certain points it feels like, oh, why are all these people still going there? Why are they still turning up there? You know, whatever, you know, but we'll get to that later on, won't we?
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was good. I thought it was decent. I like the swimming scene, like Glenn said. I like the moment where Jason goes when he sees her in the outfit. And I like how when she raises the machete, he sees the head behind her. I like that, but he knew immediately at that point because he's so in tune with the head. You know, that head is his life. And if you notice, that head is almost as rotten as he was when he was in the water in her thing because he's been trying to take care of it. Now, what I want to know is when he had that head in that little kind of, what was it? Was it like a cabin thing?
Yeah, it was like basically where we're supposed to assume that where he's been living for since he's supposedly.
Yeah. Now, my problem with that is people would have found him there, right? Let's not put that into context here. Hold on. But what I will say to finish off on my thing, I've got a lot of burps today, so excuse me. Is that I feel like it would have been nice if we'd have saw more of Jason near the end of the movie, like when he goes to kill the girl, if we'd have seen him interact with the head more. Like if he'd have looked at it, walked over to it or something, and gave it like a stroke on the head before he went over it, like that. Like, how could they do this to you? You know what I mean? I feel like this would have shown that he's got feelings as well, like deep, deep feelings, even though everybody sees him as a monster. Because, you know, I think Jason, to be honest, is one of the most innocent killers in the movies in the early days. So I'd give it a 4. I think I'd give it a 4.5.
Good one. You said a lot of great things that I was going to say, and I'm glad about that. So obviously, this is the first appearance of Jason as like actual appearance of real Jason. We get like 2 people playing him in the role: Warrington Gillette, who plays him for a little bit, and Steve Dash, who is the stunt person that does it for most of the film. Although for years, Warrington Gillette went around at conventions saying.
So it's it's the one that's a little bit the guy who's got the face.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so.
So basically, what we get with this one right here, we get one of the best casts. Amy Steele's in this one. Russell Todd, we go into like kind of like soap opera fame, like stuff like Another World and All My Children, shows like that. Lauren Marie Taylor also was a big soap opera star of like shows like Young and the Restless and Bold and Beautiful. We get a whole bunch of people. Kirsten Baker was the girl in the jean shorts, by the way, the one that does the nude scene like you guys are talking about. She is absolutely stunning. And she'd done a few movies like Gas Pump Girls and stuff like that, but nothing that I can really.
You talk about Swedish Gas Pump Girls?
I think so. I'd have to look because I remember.
What about Swedish Balding Girls? That's great.
Not the Swedish one. But I mean, like we got like a nice cast for this one here. Some of my favorite scenes are I love when they're at the bar and they're talking. And Jenny, because she's a child psychologist, that's what she does. She sits there and she talks about, she kind of does what I does with film. Like she deconstructs Jason, pretty much says, okay, well, this is what he'd be like if this really happened to him. If he saw, can you imagine? Like he's hiding and he sees his mother's dead, and the first time he sees his mother is as she's being beheaded. How's it going to affect him? And it's such a great scene. And then, like Dad mentioned there, we got a whole bunch of them that stay. Like Ted, the jokey guy that you assume is going to be one of the first deaths, right? It's like, hey, is there an after party place here? And whoa, he doesn't die. Like a whole bunch of people, like they wanted to make a sequel to The Road. They want to have like Ted cameo. It's a perfectly, they don't have to do any.
I think it'd been a great scene if we saw Jason dancing on the dance floor behind him. Like in the bar, and grabbing a beer, like chugging it down, and stuff like that. And then he was just like, okay, some of them have gone back, time to go back. That would have been nice.
No,
Yeah.
getting like we got to some sequences here that were kind of lifted from some Jawa stuff. If you're a Mario Bava fan and you've seen Bay of Blood, you've seen some of this murder before.
Yes.
But and they said they never saw like Bay of Blood. Not sure if I believe them, but it
Liars.
doesn't matter. It doesn't take away from the effectiveness of the film itself. I think Laura
Well,
Marie
most people
Taylor.
at that time probably wouldn't have seen it because it's Italian.
So that well, yeah, but then again, like also let's not forget, when we're watching Halloween and we're listening to the music, there's some strong, strong like musical cues like from Deep Red and Halloween.
Yeah.
But no, it's for me, Lauren Marie Taylor is one of the best parts of this film. She's not the star, but she's the one that's with the with the guy in the wheelchair. Like
Yeah.
she stays the stage.
I was really hoping for a full-on hardcore sex scene between those two. And same in Texas Massacre. I really wanted Franklin to get laid, like
I'm
on the
actually
floor.
surprised that you didn't mention this, and that is like, so she's going to hook up with him. So she goes back to her cabin and she's like, let's put on these chocolate odd colored panties. So I guess 70s like brown panty. I'm like,
Yeah.
not exactly what you think of. Like if you're going like, oh, I'm going to put on something sexy before I go meet this guy. No, let's put on the exact.
Well, to be fair, it depends. If she'd have bent over and had a great bum, he might have felt like he was getting some chocolate.
It was good. I mean, Russell Todd was good. I love seeing the sequence where he gets, caught in the trap, and we get another knife slice. The kills in this are really good. Even though we don't have Savani, I don't think there's anything lost. We got a very good looking Jason. Isn't like the construction of the way Jason looks way better than we're going to see later on in the franchise, including we'll get into the next one tomorrow, because
Next one's brilliant.
we're going to get like probably the worst looking Jason of all time
It's the best looking Jason.
Next to Manhattan, because we're going to we'll get to the Goonies Jason on another day. But no, like overall, like I absolutely love this film. For me, in all honesty, I like this better than the first film. I really enjoyed the first film. I think it's a solidly constructed film. That being said, I think that direction-wise, cast-wise, actor-wise, just across the board, like even Betsy Palmer coming back to do like kind of her cameos where she does that the voiceover when she shows her face. I think this is a better cast. It is better acted, and Sean S. Cunningham is a good director. Steve Miner's a better director for these type of films, and he would prove it.
Do you remember that scene? Do you remember that scene in it? They cut it out in the deleted thing where Pamela Voorhees goes, "My precious boy, come and kiss Mummy's head goodnight before you go to bed. Oh, yeah, don't forget to have a shower. Don't forget to do this, Jason. Tuck yourself in."
As much as you joked about the opening eyes sequence earlier on, tomorrow we're actually going to talk about that because that almost did happen. But not for this film. I like the ending. I don't think the first one has a better ending. It's just that lake scene is so iconic.
This one has sorry, Evan. This one has the weakest male lead in it, I believe.
John Fury.
Yeah, it's so boring.
Okay, but I don't think it's that I think like we'll get more boring. Like let's not forget we're going to be talking about part 3. And the lead in that one, remember? We talk about Bland.
Yeah, I remember.
But no, he's
we're also going to be talking about the part that Aaron likes that I do not like.
Oh,
I know that one is. Don't even say it, Dad, but I know it is. Don't say it. Don't let people know yet. But it's I would say for me, this is a solid 5, like 100%. I think that Amy, I like Adrienne King. I like Amy Steele better. I like the cast in this better. Like the cast is more likable. Lauren Marie Taylor is likable. The guy in the wheelchair is likable.
Sexy.
Actually, in real life, of course, he wouldn't have anything to do with Lauren Marie Taylor. Unfortunately, he died early. He was, one of the many at the time 80s kind of
He
like,
died of AIDS.
yeah, he was one of the sadly gay actors.
Yeah, that's what happened to Nicky. That's what happened to Nicky in Prom Night.
Yeah. So sadly, because he was a good actor and he did a damn good job in that film. This was one of my favorite casts of the entire franchise. I thought we got likable characters. No, they didn't seem, and I guess maybe because we're only in the second Femendo, guys, but they didn't seem like tropes. Like
No.
nobody seemed like, oh, it's the virginal girl. Like Amy's not a virginal girl. Like she's not the prudish girl. She's a girl. She's the college girl. She's a bit more wild. She messes up. She messes around with John Fury. If anything, John Fury is lesser because of the fact that Amy is such a strong character. Amy Steele's character of Jenny is so strong that he kind of like falters. And of course, we have to mention it. Where's Paul?
Yeah, where was he?
Where's Paul? Did you think he was dead? Do you think he was dead?
No, I think what happened is Jason
assume he was
grabbed him
dead.
and tied him up. I think Jason grabbed him, tied him up, and made him his new papa next to his mum. And
'Cause at the end of the movie,
basically, I think what happens is he gets them to, he plays basically Barbie and Ken with them, holds her by the head like this and goes, "There you go, Ken." Yeah. Right. And goes, "Give me a little brother." That's what I reckon happens.
No, Paul's
Happened.
dead. Like Paul's dead for sure.
Well, he could
Like,
be dead. He could still be doing it with his corpse.
But I mean, it's good. Obviously, we're going to get a real change in the look of Jason, and like when we get into the next film, I really, really like the guys that played Jason in this one here. Warrington Gillette did a good job for the little bit that he did. Steve Dash did an amazing job, kind of bringing this physicality. And like you mentioned before, Jason stumbles, Jason runs, and like there's always been like this falsity that Jason is one of these slow moving guys. No, that Michael is often one of these slow moving guys. Jason's not. Jason does.
The thing is, Jason in the later movies becomes just like an indestructible object, right? Like Michael. So people
We'll
get
get into zombie Jason. Now, the good thing about this, by the way, guys, is and the next couple movies we're going to be talking about is timeline wise, it's pretty much like Halloween. It's when you start it's the next day. It's literally the next day. So you wonder why they're like people are still coming there because nobody knows anything's happened yet. Basically, this is not at Camp Crystal Lake. This is like the other side. We get. Oh, by the way, what I forgot to mention when you said Dad said that they looked kind of a little bit younger. There was one girl in it that the one that remember the sequence with the guy and the girl and they're trying to run off, kind of sneak off to the part of the lake, and that ends with that cop getting killed.
Yeah.
Okay, so that girl was supposed to have a nude scene in the film. They found it after they hired her. She was underage. So they couldn't do it. So
basically, they recorded it, but they never showed it.
Yep, 100%. They did record it. They found it afterwards, and they had to destroy it. So basically, they found it after they recorded.
How underage was she?
No, she was like 16 or 17, but she was like,
that's nothing for us over here. 16's old enough here.
But like here, there, obviously it wasn't. But anyway, so they had to destroy that and take that scene out altogether and had to reshoot it. But overall, I got to say, it's a 5 out of 5 for me. I actually really love this film. I'm going to be a little. There's a bias for me with this franchise, which I got to put it out in the beginning. That being said, there are certain ones in this franchise which I actively dislike. And we'll definitely talk about those.
Better not be Jason X, I tell you. If it's Jason X, we've got issues because I'll be ranting about it.
You'll find out what it is because we'll definitely get to it. But there's one that makes me fume in how bad that they treat the character. So there you go, guys. We were pretty much on board for a change now. For like,
I think we'll be with 3 and 4. I think we'll be with 3 or 4 as well because I remember most of it from this conversation now.
Now I'm guessing my dad is going to be excited to watch part 3 again because part 3 is Friday the 13th 3D.
I remember 3.
3 is the best.
Because I watched 3 a few times.
The Jason is incredible in
the
number
only
3.
way to watch it. If you don't watch it in 3D, It's not great. It's not great anyway, but in 3D is the best way to watch
You
it.
tell
Only
them,
way to
Greg.
watch it.
You tell them.
You'll see why when you talk about it.
Oh, well, don't
When
worry.
it
We'll
was,
get
did
into
you know when it was originally in the cinema? It was on a curved screen.
what do you mean it was
Anyway,
on the
talk about that.
You know when they did like this, when you were in the
Next
cinema,
time.
originally over here it was on a curved screen. So
Not
it
where I
looked
saw it.
more, it looked more 3D over here.
Like I saw, I'm not sure if I saw it in Cornbrook or I saw it in North Pine. I saw it one place anyway. I'm sure Dad saw it in theater too. But we'll get that one. We'll get to that one tomorrow. With that being said, I want to thank you guys for coming in to talk and wax poetic about Friday 13th before the mask. Tomorrow, you're going to hear us talking about parts 3 and 4. We'll be talking about the 3D transition. Jason meets disco. Kid you not, Jason does meet disco. And of course, we'll also be talking about that wonderful Crispin Glover dance. With that being said, Dad, Malcolm, I want to thank you so much for joining me here today. And we'll see you here next time in Cabo Cinema.
Take care, everybody.